Welcome to episode 20 of the Elephant in the Room podcast, everyone. A space where my brave vulnerability warriors share their personal elephants with you and hopefully encourage you to share yours with others too. Stop hiding behind the masks of perfectionism and be who you truly are. Today, I have a special visitor here with me from Melbourne, and I'm so happy she was able to come and chat with me. We happened to get to know each other through social media, and I just felt this strong connection with her straight away. And after chatting with her, it became quite obvious why. And I immediately thought I'd love to have her in to share her story with you all because it's quite inspiring, I think. And despite the rain and craziness outside, here she is. Welcome. Do people call you Jax?
Yeah, they do.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I also have to ask you. So she just came in now because I was kind of back to back with people. So how do you say your name?
Jackie.
Jackie.
Yeah, just Jackie, but most
Even
people
though it's
call me
written in
Jax.
Jaci. Okay. So, welcome, Jackie. And your last name, where is it from?
It's German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce it?
Just Rogash.
Rogash.
Just how it's spelled.
Rogash?
Yeah.
Yeah, but for a Finnish person, that's
Yeah,
not
that's
how
true.
it's spelled. So
That's true.
But I will call you Jax from
Yeah,
now on,
call
so
me
it's just
Jax.
easier. How are you feeling? Are you nervous at all?
I am a little bit.
Yeah.
I wasn't, and then I think today it was just sort of all hit me, and like as I pulled in the car park, I'm like, oh shit,
It's happening.
Yeah.
Have you done a lot of these before?
No,
No?
first one.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so honored that you're doing it with me. So before we dive into our conversation today, a little background on my lovely guest that will also give you an idea on our topics of today and why I so much wanted her to come in and chat with me. Jax is a self-confessed perfectionist who over the last few years has immersed herself in personal development and stopped trying to control her life and really start to embrace each day as it comes. She lived with severe depression for 15 years without anyone knowing about it. Everyone that knew her thought she was a super happy, outgoing extrovert who never let anything get to her. It was only when she hit rock bottom in 2016 that she realized something in her life had to change. She finally allowed herself to face the fears and in doing so has completely changed as a person. Jax now embraces vulnerability and deep conversations rather than avoids them. She used to work in the police force, which I didn't know until we were emailing back and forth. But today is a personal development and empowerment coach for women who have faced adversity which still affects their life today. She helps them overcome their fears, build better relationships, stop caring about what other people think of them, and create a rock-solid self-belief system. She also works with female teens around self-love and body confidence. I'm sorry to hear that you went through all of that. But I'm kind of happy because I feel like that's why you are the person you are today and why you're doing what you're doing today. How do you feel about when you hear that read back to you?
I get a little bit emotional, a little bit teary.
I was
I was like,
looking at your face.
I think it's different when you, like when you say it or when you write it compared to when you hear it. Yeah. But don't be sorry.
No.
Don't be sorry that it happened because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's kind of the moment when we get empowered with our story, when we accept it and we say it's a blessing and not a curse that this happened.
Yep.
So as I do with everyone else, before we get into the actual conversation, when I came to you with the idea for you to join me on the podcast and when you heard about the subject matter, were you hesitant to say yes at all? And if so, why?
No, I wasn't hesitant to say yes. But I think once I did say yes, it was kind of like, oh shit, what have I just said yes to?
It's like, you get excited, like, oh my God, this is going to be so amazing.
Yeah.
Like, now I have to talk about my shit.
Oh shit, now people are actually going to hear it. So no, I was more honoured that you asked me. And yeah, as we've sort of said, like I'm at the point now where I'm able to talk about my past, and if me talking about it can help one person, then it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. There was no mention in your bio about your family, where you grew up or your upbringing in general. Can you share a bit of that with all of us?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a country girl, country Victoria.
Yeah.
Grew up in Echuca, which is on the...
How do you say the name?
Echuca.
Okay. Every day I hear it. I'm like,
Newtowns.
where?
Yeah. So it's on the Victoria New South Wales border on the river.
Yeah.
And I moved to Melbourne 11 years ago now. But yeah, so mum, dad, two older brothers.
Are you close?
Yeah, we are. So one of my brothers is a bit of a wanderer. He's sort of always here and there, like lived in LA for a bit, then came back, and now he's sort of in between Bali, Australia, and China, just wherever. And then my eldest brother, he's a country boy.
Yeah.
He'll never leave. So him and his wife are still up there with mum and dad.
And what are you?
Well, I'm a country girl, but I've moved to the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in between.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
at home. The other brother travels like crazy, and then you're kind of left. But,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in the middle. I am in the middle. But yeah, no. So we were always close. Like growing up was, I guess, just pretty normal for me. Like we'd go camping all the time. We'd go skiing. We'd travelled a lot of Australia growing up, which is, a absolute privilege because I know not a lot of people get to do that.
I was just about to say that that's not really normal though. Like, a lot of families don't do that, right?
Well, that's true. That's true. I think just being living that country lifestyle, you sort of normally is family holidays, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Would you describe yourself as a happy child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was always, playing outside or playing sports or, not much. Yeah. I was very happy.
Oh, good. What did you want to be or become when you were a child? Did you have this dream profession and I want to be like that when I grow up?
Yes.
When was it?
So this is a bit of a story. I always said I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I did a week of work experience with a law firm and it was the most boring week of my life. Bearing in mind,
you're watching Law and Order and all these shows.
Bearing in mind, I was at a law firm in Echuca, so maybe it would have been a bit different if I came to the city. I was like, I'm not doing this. And then I went to a careers expo and went home and told mum I wanted to be a masseuse.
So you went from one extreme to another, and then you became a police officer. So
yeah. So it was all that's what sort of chopped and changed a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You mentioned you are a perfectionist. When did you realize that you were one?
I think I've always been a bit like that.
But when did you realize it?
Oh, I don't know. There's no sort of specific moment. I know there was a few years in the middle where I just sort of lost my way a little bit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my work, I guess probably since I started my working life, I've always been a bit of a perfectionist in that way. Yeah.
Why do you think you became one? Because we have a lot of conversations about this.
Yeah.
Is it genetics, or do you feel like you grew up in an environment where that was kind of encouraged? Or
I don't know. I think it was probably my reflecting on everything now. I think it was probably my fear of letting the world see my flaws. So I wanted to be perfect in every other way.
Why were you afraid that the world would see your flaws? What would happen if they saw them?
Nothing would happen.
What did you think would happen?
I don't know. I guess it's that, you'd be seen as weak or, I don't know. I just had that stigma around vulnerability.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to see that, I wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
That I wasn't always happy, that I had issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has issues though.
Yeah, I know that now.
We know
I know that now.
We think that everybody else is their life is amazing.
Yeah.
How has that shown up in your life, and has it affected the direction that your life went, do you think, being a perfectionist?
No, I think it's shown, just as I said before, so it's always been in my work, in my work life. I've always strived to be the best. I've always tried the best that I can be, I should say.
Yeah.
And, anything that I've wanted, really wanted, I've got. But yeah, it's more so in my work, in my work life.
Yeah. Still?
It is, but not the same. So I still want to do the best job that I can do.
Which is different than being a perfectionist.
Yeah. So I've let go of control.
Yeah.
I realise that I can't control everything that happens in my life.
It's like a weight lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah, huge. I know. My God, I can actually just embrace today. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about you being a police officer. So
Mm-hmm.
how did that happen?
Yeah,
And
so
why are you not one anymore?
yeah,
Can you share the story?
I can. um, yeah, so my grandpa was in the job. My uncle used to be a police officer. One of my mum's cousins was in a police officer. So it was something that I'd always been drawn to. And again, like, you know, you watch all these crime shows on TV and I'm like, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
And then I was going to do it when I was 18 and mum sort of told me that I should get some more life experience before I do that. And obviously she's grown up with the police forces, you know, like they were in a one-man police station
Yeah.
in remote country Victoria.
Yeah.
So it was her life.
Uh-huh.
And then, so yeah, 18, she's like, have some more life experience. I'm like, that's fine. So then I was going to do it when I moved to Melbourne. She's like, oh, I still think you need some more life experience. So I got a job in recruitment. And then I did that for, I think, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And I realised that the corporate life just
not
isn't
for
for
you.
me. And I just applied. And then after I'd applied,
Did
I
you
told
tell
her.
your mom you
I
applied?
told her after I'd applied. I'm like, I've already applied now. It's just going to happen. So I loved it, and I loved it. But I guess basically my past before joining came back to haunt me a little bit.
How long did you do that for?
Would have
Being
been
police?
6.5 years.
Yeah, that's a long time though.
Yeah, it is. But I think for me it was going to be my forever.
Yeah. So that was the thought when you
Yeah.
went into it.
Yeah. And I'd probably molded myself a bit that way that,
Yeah.
you know, I'm this is me, this is who I am, when it's not, it's a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, my past came back a little bit and it was really that's sort of when everything came crashing down again. And while it was horrendous at the time, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Often the worst things are the best things because they
Yeah.
direct you to a different place where you would never go without it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really sad that this happens so much. And I was talking to, and it happens at workplace, which is even crazier because we're adults and we should be able to, be kind to each other. But you went through bullying as a child in school. Can you share a little bit more on the extent of it?
Yeah, and this isn't something that it's only been very recently that I've sort of talked about this as well. So in primary school, I'm a hairy person. My dad's hairy. He's got dark hair. I've got dark hair. So, primary school, it was always, I'd get picked on because I was hairy, so I had to be really conscious of, shaving my legs or waxing my legs at a really young age. And then that sort of carried through to high school. And then I found country people can be really competitive with sport and stuff like that. So that sort of popped up a few times. But when I went to high school, I went to a different high school than most of my primary school friends. And there was just one girl who just hated me. I don't know why. She just decided that she hated me. So there was lots of...
because of her? She hated you because of her?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
But, that sort of thing, let's play hide and seek, but actually let's just run away from Jackie so she's got no one to have lunch with, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think through high school I never felt like I could truly be me. I played sport and I was in the band and I was academic for most of it and I liked everybody. Yeah. But then some of the girls that I was friends with didn't understand that why would you want to talk to other people? Why would you want to be friends that aren't, in our group, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I just never really felt like I could truly be me. Yeah.
Do you think that it affected you and how it affected you being bullied?
Yeah, I think as a result, and it's so much reflection recently, but I think, because of that, I tried to please everyone and I always thought I had a lot of friends. And when I first met my partner, he's like, I just can't keep up with how many friends you have. Yeah. And that was how I liked it. But then I realised, in 2016 that a lot of my friends weren't my friends. Does that make sense? Yeah. I thought they were friends, but they weren't good friends. Yeah. And then going through hard times, you always realise who are your good friends. Yeah. So I think I probably overcompensated in my life and I wouldn't necessarily have deep friendships, but I always made sure I had a lot of friendships. Yeah.
You have gone through some pretty horrific experiences. One being that you were raped at the tender age of 15. Would you feel comfortable sharing with us what happened?
Yeah. So it was it's actually a guy that I knew, and so my first love, like my first boyfriend,
Yeah.
it wasn't him. It was
Yeah.
after him. He was friends with this guy, and he got my number or whatever somehow. Anyway, and it was just I only caught up with him a couple of times, and every time I did, it was he'd say, "Do you want to have sex?" And I was still a virgin at that stage, so I'm like, "No."
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if we don't have. Do you mind if we don't have image?
No, it's okay.
So we'll still get the recording. So
Yeah.
for some reason the batteries no. Okay. Sorry, continue.
That's okay. Yeah, so every time we caught up, pretty much from the first time I saw him, he was like, "Do you want to have sex?" And as I said, I was a virgin at the time, so I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
like I don't even know you." And then I caught up with him one time, and he asked me, and I said no, but he just decided that he would anyway. And then afterwards, the first thing he said to me was, "Don't scream rape." So I didn't really. So I didn't tell anyone for a long time, about 8 months.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh
And
my
he did it
goodness.
to get one up on his mate, basically, because I hadn't slept with his friend, and they were friends and had a fight. So he thought he'd sleep with me to get one up on him.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Hold on. This is so bad. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna try because I don't get you on camera too. So that's you. Oh, goodness. Why is it not? Okay. See, that should fix it. So sorry.
That's okay.
This is why I want to have my own stuff. Okay, you're back on. Okay, sorry, continue. We'll just cut all of these out. Okay. No, you're good. You're good. Now the camera is working again.
Where do you want me to go from?
So we continue where you were.
Oh,
So what happened, and then do you remember where you were?
Yeah. Yeah. So he did it to be one up on his mate, basically.
Did you tell anyone in your life, and why did you tell after 8 months?
Yeah. So he actually went back. He wasn't from the same town as me, and he went back and told all of his friends that he'd slept with me.
Yeah.
So I had all these phone calls from these completely random people asking if I'd had sex with him, and so I just denied it. And then obviously I changed, and I went into a really depressed state and tried to kill myself back then. And I ended up telling a couple of friends, like close friends, and I think I just needed to. But the main reason I started telling people was I was walking home from school one day, and I was just standing down in the main street, and I got a message, and I looked at it, and it just said, "I'm in a chuka. I'm not leaving until I see you." And I just went white. I nearly fainted, and I was with a couple of friends there, and they're like, what the fuck's just happened? Like, I hope I'm allowed to swear. And I looked up, and he was in his car, like right there in front of me, and I just lost it. And one or two of the guys that were with me at the time knew, and they're like, "That's him, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yep." And then so I sort of had a bit of a meltdown, and then luckily for my big brother, so within like a couple of minutes there was like 3 cars following him around town. So that's sort of when I first told people, but I still didn't tell a lot of people. So my
Did
brother,
your parents know?
my mum found out later as a result of an argument. So sort of the first serious boyfriend I guess I had after that, she wasn't a fan of and warranted. He was a bit of a dickhead.
Yeah.
But
Not to that extent.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. But yeah, we had a bit of a fight. And I just sort of yelled it at her. And then she told me I had to tell my dad, and I didn't. And sorry, I get emotional.
Okay.
I told Dad a few years ago because he needed to know. I think at the time I was petrified that he'd kill him.
I was just about to say, maybe the mom was afraid of
Yeah, so
that's
Mum's
gonna be the
like,
end of his life.
yeah, Mum's like, you need to tell your dad. I'm like, I can't. So, and I think, Mum's generation was, you just don't talk about things.
Yeah.
So we never spoke about it.
So that was it.
That was it. And my brother and his friends knew. And then none of my girlfriends from school knew because of, I guess I went into protective mode. There was a few comments made, the old stigma of if you don't bleed, you haven't been raped, and as if you can't fight them off, that sort of thing. So I never told them. And then as life went on, I would tell a couple of people, but they had to be really close to me. And it was a really big issue for me to tell them. Like I really had to work myself up to it, and I'd be just a mess because I didn't allow myself to talk about it. And that's sort of just what led the next 15 years. Yeah.
How did going through something like that? So you already kind of started talking about that, but how did it affect you? I can't even imagine. You said you went into deep depression because of it, tried suicide, and went into a really destructive lifestyle. Can you share a bit more on that 15 years in those areas? Like what happened?
Yeah, so when I was at school, so I sort of went from being a straight A student and loving school and my VCA, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I got a scholarship to go to a boarding school in Melbourne, and it was only a part scholarship, so my family couldn't afford to send me. And I just, I didn't hate them for it, but I hated them for it. Like I was so upset that I couldn't go. And I think for me that was, my escape, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I didn't really do much study in PCE. So, so it affected me then. And then as I got a bit older, I sort of struggled with trying to, come to terms with everything. And then when I was down, I just didn't know how to get out of that.
Yeah.
And then a couple of my friends took drugs, which I didn't. And then I think one of them gave me a pill for my 19th birthday.
Yeah.
That's what people I was hanging around with.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. For a few years I took, recreational drugs. It was never something I relied on. I was never addicted, and it was never all the time type thing, but that was just something that I did.
Would normally do.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't in your radar.
Nah. And I, there's so many things you look back now, those sliding door moment. If I had have done this, that sort of thing. But as I said, I can't change it now, and it's made me who I am. So there was that, and I think I attracted drama. So I was more comfortable in my life if something was going wrong, because when everything in my life seemed fine, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I sort of freaked out. And I know I had it was about 2.5 year relationship when I was 19 to 21, and I loved him, and we're still close, and we still talk, but he was 6 or 7 years older than me and ready to settle down, and he'd travelled and everything, and I was 21 living in country Victoria ready to leave. So we split up, and then I looked at the shiny object, looked to a guy who was very persistent and someone that I wasn't interested in at the start. But, he had money, he could buy me things, we could go places.
On paper, it looked good.
On paper, it looks great. And he was horrendous. It was 6 months of my life that felt like about 6 years of my life. Really controlling, emotionally abusive. He used to tell me, for sure. Used to tell me that he wasn't in control of the relationship. I'm like, you're not meant to be. That's not what a relationship is. He broke into my parents' house. He stole my phone bill. He'd ring the phone company to see who I'd been ringing. Followed me around town. Followed me to Melbourne. Just a massive control freak. And I know that he didn't come from the best family, potentially. They had issues, but I'd never experienced anything like that. But when he was good, he was amazing.
But that's the whole trick of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the cycle. And it's like, we could go places, he'd buy me things, we'd, hang out, and he was great. But as soon as he had alcohol or he had drugs, he was just a piece of shit, basically. And because of him, I left
Yeah.
Echuca. I'm like, I can't stay here anymore.
Yeah.
And I sort of learned to block everything, like block emotions and that sort of thing. So my life until a few years ago was I would spend 6 months as this super extroverted, happy person that was just go, 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 was always doing something. And then 2 weeks, every 6 months or so, I would just crash. And so that, I'd be depressed for those 2 weeks and I'd think about suicide and ending my life. And then I'd just sort of lock myself away and then that would go. And then I'd go back to that, extrovert that has no problems in the world. And again, I would crash.
So you're keeping yourself busy and pushing down the feelings and things that you haven't dealt with, and then it has to crash and burn for a moment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel like, because you said that you drove, you had all this drama and all this shit happening and all these bad relationships. I call it emotional osmosis, but when you have that happening inside, the turmoil and that, you need to have your inside match your outside.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And unless you fix that, which you've done now, and it shifts everything.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Your environment.
Yeah.
The environment that you live in is the environment that you create for yourself.
Or that you have within yourself.
Yeah, completely.
What was the moment? So you said, so how old are you now?
33.
33?
Yeah.
So you were in your early 30s when
I was
kind of
29.
you started dealing with things, right?
Yeah.
What was the reason why, after 15 years of not dealing with it, why did you do it then?
Yeah, so as I said, so with the police force, that's when sort of everything turned to shit.
Yeah.
And a few things happened. And
what things?
I guess, my past just came back to haunt me. And
do you feel like they came to haunt you because you had to deal with it?
Yeah,
right?
I do now. I do now. And again, there was decisions that I made that could have changed the outcome, but that's not the journey that I meant to do.
You can with what you know at the time.
Yeah, yeah. But it was then that. So I think it was in August. There was one day that I was literally sitting in my kitchen in the corner by myself. I was living by myself at the time, and I had a knife against my wrist, and I'm like, I'm done. And the main thing that stopped me, and this is not everyone thinks like this, was I couldn't handle.
Looking for tissue.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm all right. I'm just being a big sook. I couldn't handle the thought of what my partner would have to go through if I did it. And then this is the perfectionist in me. I didn't want my parents to have to clean up the mess or sell an apartment where someone had died.
Yeah.
And it was that moment that I'm like, I just can't, I can't do this anymore. I can't. And I think I'd been to psychologists before.
So your partner didn't know about what had happened?
Yeah, he knew about what had happened.
But not how you were feeling about it.
Yeah, yeah. And he knew I had in the past. Felt like that.
I was looking for them, but they're right here. And there's the chocolate too.
Oh, thanks.
Later.
Yeah, he knew that I had depression to some extent, but he didn't know that. And I didn't tell him for probably 6 months after that day. Yeah. And he was a bit angry that I didn't tell him. Obviously. But yeah, obviously. But that wasn't where my head was at. Like, I didn't want anyone to help me. Like, I didn't want to be here. Yeah.
It also feels shameful, right?
Yeah, well, I think it wasn't so much shameful. It was just I didn't want to be here. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell anyone because I don't want anyone to stop me.
Oh, yeah, true. If someone knows, they might try to. And that's, the thing that people say when just before somebody kills themselves, right? And people say, no, but they were so happy that 2 last weeks, oh my God, they were like having the best life.
Yeah.
But that's the reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was that. And then, so I'd been to a few psychologists and they were just rubbish. Yeah. Like, I'm not a fluffy person. Like, I don't want to go in and, see someone and them ask me, how's your day? How are you feeling? Like, I want someone that gets me.
The real shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was literally only I went in to see one psychologist that had been referred to me just to sort of tick a box type thing. And she was amazing. She was just like, right, we're going to deal with what's going on now. We're going to deal with your past, and then we're going to focus on the future. And I'm like, you're my person. You know, like within 10 minutes I knew, and she
The
was,
right fit.
yeah, she was incredible. And it was only with her that I realised that, you know, I could actually do this. I can face everything that I've been hiding from. Yeah.
So how has the journey from there been, and what were the actions you took to address what had been going on?
Yeah. Well, the journey's been amazing.
Yeah.
Like the last 3 years of my life, like I'm actually a completely different person.
Yeah.
And it was...
Or maybe you're the person that you always were.
Yeah.
Before
Or the
what
person
happened.
that I'm me.
You know, like when you were
Yeah.
a child, before all the shit goes down.
Yeah.
Like you're back to being yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm much more spiritual. Like I'm much more in touch with me. And it was interesting the other week, we had a funeral for a former colleague from the police force who killed himself. And I said to my partner, Jace, when we left, I'm like, it's actually really interesting because everyone I talk to, I see this really dark, you know, people in the police force, I could see this really dark cloud over them, like, you know, their walls up. And I'm like, and I recognize that in me. Like, that's what I used to be like. And I'm not now. Like, I'm much gentler and I'm much softer and I'm much more in touch with myself. But I think for me now, like, I'm just constantly learning. Like, I constantly want to create the best life for myself. You know,
you love yourself.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
I love
How
myself.
amazing is
I
that
love
to
my
say,
life.
right?
I know. It's like, you know, if you asked me, you know, told me 4 years ago that I'd be meditating every day and I could put my hand on my put your hand on your heart and tell yourself you love you, I'd be like, you are a lunatic. Whereas that's what I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Has it affected your relationship with men? I'm guessing yes, but you mentioned domestic violence being a part of your life as well. And that was the relationship you had before, right? That you were talking about. But how has it affected your relationships? Like even with your current partner, are there things that you do differently because of what happened? Was it hard to trust this new person?
So the new one's actually interesting. But I think when I moved before, so Jason and I have been together 5 years. Before him, my longest relationship since I've moved to Melbourne was maybe 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
I think there was one that went to 5 or 6 months, but that was purely so I could, you know, show myself that I can stay with someone for that long.
I'm not a loser.
Yeah. But that was always me. It was in my mind, if I couldn't see myself spending the rest of my life with them, there was no point continuing.
No, I agree.
Like I've
it's
never,
too short.
yeah, I didn't want to be that person that was in a relationship just for the sake of being in a relationship because I've never needed that. Like I've always been very strong and independent, and I've never felt like I've needed a man.
It's not that you need one, but you deserve one.
Yeah, and I'm, you know, I'm a dreamer. Like I like fairy tales. I like to believe in fairy tales. So for me, it was always, no, you're not the person. So we just might as well end it now. Like, you know, what's the point?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. But I think I attracted a lot of dickheads. And Mum used to say that. She's like, they're a dickhead. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, Mum. And they were like, you know, and really possessive, controlling. And like, obviously, as soon as that starts happening, I'm like, nah, I'm out. Whereas some people were like, you know, these aren't fights. These are arguments. I'm like, they're a fight to me. And if you're trying to tell me that I can't have coffee with my girlfriends, then...
Piss off.
Yeah. Yes. Very much so.
Yeah. But I think that's also knowing your boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, when somebody yells at me, that's it already.
Yeah.
I just know.
Yeah.
I don't want that. And it just makes me want to leave my body.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm not putting up with this. No.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I've always been, I think proud is the word, proud of that I've never compromised, you know, my independence for the sake of a relationship. And I've always stood my ground in terms of, and I've always been a sole believer that you shouldn't, yes, we make compromises in relationships, but we shouldn't compromise
who you are.
and who our friends are because of someone else. Yeah.
And I just want to put it out there because I've had a few people talking about being with a narcissist, and I've dealt with worked with people like that in my previous work. So I just want to put it out there that we are not judging anyone, because the situation, it often is a slippery slope.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean? So just
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that you did
Yeah.
not mean that, but
Yeah.
just for people listening,
Oh, yeah. And like you obviously in the police force dealt with family violence daily.
Yeah.
And in my job now, I still do.
so you have that,
Oh, yeah.
you know where it leads. So you have already that like different kind of view on things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
But it
you're more-
takes, it takes on average up to 7 times for someone that's in a relationship with family violence to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't realize how hard it is
No.
because, as I said before, like the good days are good, and you want to believe that they'll
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, I certainly don't judge
Yeah.
anyone else because I know how hard it is to get out of those relationships.
Exactly.
But yeah, just for me, it was just one thing that I would
Like
rather be
done.
single.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was potentially also, I was scared of getting hurt. Like I was scared of really attaching myself to someone because I could get hurt.
Yeah. So protecting yourself too.
Yeah. Yeah. Bit of a combination.
Do you think you became a police as a result of what happened to you as a girl? Because it's like, you said that you have that in your family,
Yeah.
but that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
Like that gives you power, that gives you kind of,
Yeah, potentially.
or no?
No, it definitely could. I don't like.
Yeah.
It's just it was always something that I wanted to do that I thought would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I joined genuinely because I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
I don't think the police force helps people in the way that it could
Yeah.
or that it should. And there are a lot of downfalls. But yeah, that's why I joined. As you go into the academy and everyone's like, why'd you join? I'm like, because I want to help people. And they're like, gay, corny, like,
But that's what we saw. That's again the perception
Yeah.
that we have before we're actually doing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's the same as perception with people. We see people having these lives and we think that, oh my God, I want that life. And
Yeah.
when you're in it, it's like, oh my God, that's horrible. Mine was way better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like,
Honestly.
you can look at relationships on
Yeah.
Instagram. Like, I very rarely post a picture of Jace and I, but...
So I didn't know that you were interviewing.
No, I know, but I don't need to.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like, I think in 5 years we've had one argument.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's just... And it took a bit of getting used to him. Like we're so different. And I never thought I would end up with someone so different to me, but he's, my yin to my
Compliments
yang.
you.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and he trusted me from the start. Like I remember when we first started dating, I'd be like, oh, I'm going out for dinner. He's like, okay.
We're like,
I'd be like, don't you want to know who
have
I'm
a
going
problem?
with? Do you want to know where I'm going? It's like, no. I'm like, I just don't understand this. And like, if he passed me my phone, like say this is the screen, if it was
Yeah.
next to him, he'd pass it that way. So the screen was facing the other way.
yeah.
And I was just, just these little things that just showed me that he
Doesn't
trusted
need to
me
know.
completely. Like, and it took 6 to 12 months to get used to that.
Yeah.
It's like, because that's not what I was used
Yeah.
to. I was used to partners going, who are you going
Did
with?
it
Where are you
piss you
going?
off that he didn't?
Um,
Because for me, sometimes I feel like a little bit of jealousy is important. Like the healthy amount.
Yeah.
That it feels like that person actually cares.
Yeah. Well, he asks now because he
Yeah.
knows the people that I'm
Yeah.
going out with. I think it was more, it was a little bit of that. I was like,
But obviously also
does he,
that you...
does he not care? Like, does he
Yeah.
not want to know? Like, why don't you want to know?
Why don't you want to know? Right?
Yeah, that was, I was like, this just doesn't, but yeah, and obviously now I know that it's for
Right.
purely the most amazing intentions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hold on, I'm losing track of where I wanted to go. You said you felt like you didn't fit in anywhere. What did you mean, and when did you feel like that? Do you still feel like that, or was it just when you were young?
Until probably 2 or 3 years ago.
So, but what do you mean you didn't? I kind of, tell
Yeah,
me.
that's okay. So I guess, like, and especially in high school, as I said, so I hung out with, I guess, what was considered the cool
Yeah.
group, which feels
I don't know, 'cause
so
I never did. So I don't know
feels
what-
so awful saying
Uh-huh.
that. But so I hung out with them. I was sporty. I was in the band.
Yeah.
Was academic. I wanted to be friends with everyone, so I would talk to people a couple of years younger than me. And I think it was just, I felt like I could never truly express myself in the way that I wanted to, because people would judge me for that.
Yeah. If someone didn't want to be friends with you, how did you deal with it? If someone's like, "Yep, you're not," like, "No, I'm not interested." How did you deal with it?
I haven't. I don't know. Like, other than that one person, it really stands out to me. I haven't really. I don't know. Like, that was hard, but then we sort of, a couple of different groups all merged, and then it was kind of okay until we finished school, and I realized she still hated me, but I had no idea. And I think, I don't know. Like, that's sort of never really. I think I've been upset at when some friendships have ended, and now I realize that, you know, there's either a reason that it ended, or they were just meant to come into my life for a season. So, you know, and that's my thing on friends. It's like they're either in there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Yeah. So I think I'm more, because I'm reflecting my own things now. But I remember when I was, the girl that everybody got along with.
Yeah.
Right? And if somebody didn't get along with me, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? How do I make that person like me?
Yeah.
Like, it became my mission.
Yeah.
Until I understood that not everybody's going to like you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
When you don't need that validation. But when I was young, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah. See, I think I just...
Did you ever have that? I don't know. Not really.
I think I just tried to blend in so people would, like, as I said...
Be like a chameleon?
Yeah. Yeah, the grey man. We used to call it in the police force. But yeah, so I just, as I said, like, I would never truly say what I thought in case I offended someone, or I wouldn't... Yeah, that sort of thing.
Hold back on who you truly are.
Yeah.
You felt you were always different than your friends were, right? I never felt like you could truly be yourself. But why was that? Why you felt like you had to be a chameleon?
I think it was the fear of judgment. It was the fear of... and potentially that comes from, the bullying side of things. I didn't want to go through that again.
Did that hurt again?
Well, it didn't, and it was only sort of later when, like, you meet different people, and it's like, oh, this is what friendship is. Like, I can say whatever I think, and I can fuck up. I can do something really stupid, but you're still going to love me.
Yeah.
So, and it's probably not something I realised at the time. Like, I did feel like I didn't fit in, and I knew that I couldn't express myself completely. But yeah, I think it was just more, I was scared that they'd just judge me, and then that would bring back
all that.
Yeah.
That happened before.
Yeah.
With depression and what happened, you had it go for so long, and you've been dealing with it or working with it for 3 years now or so. Do you have days when you feel you're on the edge and like you could easily slip back to that, or are you in the clear?
No. So I this seems like I was actually writing this before for a blog. I remember I went in to see my psych one day, and so I'd already been seeing her for a few months. Yeah. And I went in, she's like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. She's like, okay, what's happened? And I'm like, well, I was completely run down, worn out, fell in that hole, and I didn't think of killing myself. She was like, and I don't think she realised I think until that moment she didn't even realise the extent of how I felt, and she was like, what? I'm like, that is the first time I can remember that I've hit that, I'm just completely exhausted and I haven't thought of killing myself. I'm like, so that's amazing. And she's like, yes, it is amazing. And here's my number in case you ever feel like that again. So, yeah, like I think the last, it'd be, 2-3 years since I've had a suicidal thought. Yeah. There are obviously days where, you get upset about things, or you sort of, and I try and, like I've got so many more tools now. So if I feel myself slipping into a bad thought pattern, I can pull myself out of that.
So it's funny that you went straight to my next question. What are your tricks of keeping yourself mentally healthy?
Yeah, so I journal every morning. I try and meditate daily, but sometimes it's not daily. I exercise a lot. I like I'm constantly reading books to learn of different tricks. So Mel Robbins, I love. Joe Dispenza, I love. I'm obviously going to see Tony Robbins this weekend. So I think it's just being present is probably the biggest tool that I have. You know, I can't change what's happened in the past, and when I start thinking about that, I can notice that now, whereas previously I would just go down that thought pattern and not have any idea why.
So what are your triggers? What are the moments when you're like,
I think
like what are the moments that you pull yourself back and you're like, this is going to a wrong direction now?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what my triggers are. I think it just sort of happens. Like, I think when I start feeling sorry for myself, that's probably one. Like, when I start going, oh, this shouldn't have happened or this shouldn't have happened. Like, that's one where I'm like, hang on a second, you know. But yeah, I don't know whether and I think because of being in the police force, and I still, like, I have a, I'm a coach, but I do have another job as well. And I think because I've dealt with, I deal with sexual assaults and family violence and all of these things so often. It's probably easier for me not to be triggered. But in saying that, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to deal with victims of sexual assault. Whereas now I can. And now I know, not that I tell everybody what's happened to me, but I know that I can support them and I know that I can give them a safe space to talk to me.
Do you feel like you've forgiven the person who did that to you?
Yeah, I think...
You had to take a pause, so I'm asking you.
Oh, I'm trying to think about it. I haven't... It's been such a long time since I've thought of him. I don't know, like, I guess I don't hate him. I don't like, obviously, I don't like what he did. But yeah, I guess I would say I've forgiven him. And I think something I've been thinking about recently, just going off on little tangents here.
It's okay.
Is that, you know, I used to be very competitive in my life. And if I didn't like someone, I, you know, really didn't like them. Whereas now there's not really anyone that I can say that about. Like, there's people that have hurt me, but for me, I'm like, well, they're not part of my life anymore. And that's a good thing. So I've sort of lost that whole hatred aspect.
I think we're, like, when you think of past relationships and when you think of, or something bad that happened to you, I think we're healed when they don't raise big emotions in us anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if you think of even a good thing, if you've had a partner that you really loved and you lost them, and when you can think of them and it's just like soft feel in your heart, but it's not like you start crying and you know, bawling your eyes out, or in your case starting to like just want to punch him in the face, or you know, like it's like, yeah, well, he's a dick, but
if you crush it, you know,
like it doesn't shake you anymore.
Yeah. And I think with like with the rape, it was. I did it was like over Christmas a couple of years ago, and I just sat down and wrote everything from start to finish, like every single detail, and I'd never allowed myself to do that.
Of what happened?
Yeah. And I was crying. There was snot, like it was not pretty.
Like ugly tears.
Oh, so ugly. Jace walked in, so, what are you trying to leave me alone? But then, and then when the next time I saw my psych and she asked me about it, it didn't bring up as much, and it was because I'd actually allowed myself to talk about it.
Is it? Yeah, sorry, continue.
Oh, and then there was one other instance where it was the first time it had ever, like, I was talking to a friend about different sexual assaults, and she was saying, like, we were talking about like historic sexual assaults. And she was like, you know, you'd just say something. Like, I would just say something because, you know, I'd want something done. And I just went, oh, I didn't. And the words had sort of come out before I'd thought about them. And that was the first time that I'd just been been able to openly talk about it without, you know, having this massive anxiety attack or going into this really dark space. And I think it was because instead of it being this locked up little part of my life, it's now just part of who I am. Yeah.
It's not part of who you are, though.
No, but it's part of my story.
Yeah.
You know, it's not part of it. Yeah. It's part of my story. It's,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not grateful that it happened, but I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learnt because of it. And it's the same with all of the bad things that I've been through.
Yeah.
It's like every one of those has led me to where I am,
Yeah.
and it's taught me resilience. So
I always say shit is a gift from the universe,
yeah, it is.
right?
It is. And I truly believe that A, everything happens for a reason, but B, we're never given more than we can handle.
Yeah. Yeah.
As shit as it can be at the time and as hard as it can be, I think, and this is, again, I would not have been saying this 4 years ago. Like, the universe just doesn't give us anything that we can't handle.
Yeah.
Like, she knows.
Yeah.
She knows what we can deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that people often, forget when we're running from things that we're afraid of to think, or, we want to do something, but we don't do it because we're afraid of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And what keeps us locked in that is not sitting down and actually thinking all the way through it, because then it loses its power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you did with, what happened when you wrote everything down.
Yeah.
It's not just this like unknown in your head, it's this like ball that starts to create a life of its own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Once you accept something and once you talk about it, it doesn't have any control over you anymore.
And that's the thing with imperfections as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like these, like you were saying, these masks that we hold.
Yeah.
And the moment we let them down or we share our imperfections, and it's like this liberation of your being.
And you
attract the best freaking thing ever.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you attract the right things in your life.
Yeah.
You learn very quickly who your people are and what you're meant to be doing. Yeah, or not. And if they're not, then that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Body image.
Yeah.
This is the next point that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
So you said like majority of us, unfortunately, and especially with the the space where we live in these days, have struggled with body image. But what has that journey been for you? Can you share?
Yeah. So I was like primary school and the start of high school, like this tiny little thing, stick thin. Always played heaps of sport, and then I remember Mum saying, "You need to choose 1 or 2 sports, not 6." And so I stopped most of them, and then I had my growth spurt all at once. So I, grew boobs, grew a bum, developed puppy fat, I guess you'd call it. And I looked
puppy fat?
Puppy fat. Just, I don't know, like I just had fat on me instead of just being this tiny little...
No, these are just like expressions I've
heard. Sorry.
Okay,
yeah,
make mental note, tick, continue.
Learn something
That's
new.
Why I do
Yeah, sorry. And I looked at a lot of my friends and they were tiny.
Yeah.
They were very small, they were skinny, they were shorter than me, and I felt huge.
Yeah.
So in high school, I felt like I was really big. And then, so I left after I'd finished school, when I was partying and stuff, I lost a lot of weight, but I still thought I was big.
Yeah. Body dysmorphia?
Yeah, well,
Maybe.
yeah. And I always thought my arms were huge, whereas now I look at my arms and they're like half the size of they are now. I've always been fit, so that's been good. I remember one year I had a pretty bad eating year, and I knew in myself that I wasn't feeling.
What does that mean?
I was playing netball in Geelong, so it's an hour from Melbourne. I would have just shit food, takeaway on the Friday night, rubbish food when we're at the footy. Just wasn't eating well, and I put on I think about 5 kilos, but it wasn't good kilos. So I had a little pot belly and stuff like that. And I remember I was already self-conscious about it, and my favorite pair of jeans ripped. I was like, oh my God, I'm huge. Yeah. And I went home and I remember I was getting in my car, and my mum pointed to my belly. She's like, oh, look at your little belly sticking over the seatbelt.
And you're like, oh.
I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, I'm aware of this. Whereas now, and then, so I've been doing CrossFit for maybe 5 years, and when I started, there's probably 2 stories. So when I moved to Melbourne, I started a boot camp, and I quit because my arms got big and my legs got big. In my mind, they got big, because they got muscly. So I stopped that. And then when I started CrossFit, again, my body changed a lot and I'm a lot
Yeah.
musclier than I've ever been. Maybe not now because I don't train as much, but like I learnt to embrace that because what my body can do now is more than it's ever been able to do. Yeah, so I think it was just that, teens. At first I was skinny, then I thought I was fat because I was comparing myself, and then I was super skinny, but I still felt like I was big. And because, like I've always had broad shoulders, so that, you've got everyone's got those things
Hang-ups.
that, And like for me, one is my belly. Like I've always had a pretty flat belly. So if I feel like I've got a bit of a pot belly happening, I'm like, oh no, I've got to sort this shit out. No sugar for a week. And I think that's a constant, and especially for the teens that I work with, but that's a constant, everyone's got that thing. Everyone's got one thing that they're never going to be truly happy with. But I think and we're going to be more, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
I think everyone has that one thing that sort of is like,
Sore spots.
yeah, you're just never completely happy with one part of your body. Yeah, and like it's just about like look at what you can do with that body.
But I don't want to say that like people, that's just how it is, that we have this part of our body that we are not okay with. Even if you don't like it, you can still be okay with it and love it. And I think that should be the goal, right?
Yeah. The
Right?
goal is to love yourself
Right.
as you are.
Even if you're not like, okay, this is not my like the best bit in my body, but I still love it.
Yeah.
As it is.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, and that's what I was trying to get to, but I couldn't articulate. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people see these people with these perfect lives, and they're like, oh, they're amazing, but they're still going to have something, but they love themselves.
But a lot of the times, these people who look the most amazing are the most unhappy.
Oh yeah,
This is just
yeah.
So let's not assume like that's what we do. Like we compare and we think because they look like this and they're going to be happy and everything is amazing, but it's not.
Yeah, and like I would love for, and I put it up on Instagram yesterday. I think, everyone's striving to be like other people. Like, why can't we just strive to be like ourselves?
Yeah.
Like love ourselves, chase our own dreams, not compare ourselves to bloody. I'm going to offend someone here, but Insta famous people. Like, what is that? Like, yeah. So I just want people to love themselves because it's possible.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I didn't think it was possible.
Plus, then you're not spending your energy on things that don't matter.
No.
Like people are not striving the best lives they can because they're so focused on the pimple on their nose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like comments like, old Jackie would have, might see a comment, a post or something that I didn't agree with, and I'd be like, type something and say something, whereas now I'm like, it doesn't faze me. Yeah. But I also don't follow anyone that if I look at someone's Instagram page and it, I tense up and I'm not happy with it, I just unfollow them.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to follow them. Yeah. I want people that make me feel good.
Don't let Instagram make you its bitch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
A lot of people do that. Why would you let it?
Why
would you?
Yeah. Why are you looking at someone's page who makes you angry?
Yeah, why? But also look at why it's making you angry, because it's giving you messages about yourself.
Yeah.
Today, what would you consider being your greatest vulnerabilities, and how do you deal with them?
I think...
Like, what are the things that you hide? Like you said when you were younger.
Yeah.
That you hid those things from the world. Do you still have these things, any of these things, and what are they?
No, I think I'm... Like, the sexual assault is my vulnerability, but I'm learning to come to terms with that. And I think probably the depths, as you've seen before from me crying, the depths of my depression and the stage that I was at is probably not something that many people know. Maybe a lot more now, but that's not something that most people know. Yeah. But I think I'm like, and that's been the beauty of the last 3 years, is that I've truly embraced who I am and everything about me. Yeah. And I'm happy to talk about in the right forum. Like, I'm not one to just go out and tell the world everything, because that's...
Not everybody deserves to know everything about you.
No.
Also, not for the Instagram
Yeah.
people who are sharing everything. It's good to share, but sometimes it's good to keep, like, you know, you were
Yeah.
saying about your relationship.
Yeah.
And I do believe there's a saying, you know, that the healthiest relationships are the ones who are not posted like every single moment of every single, you
Yeah.
know, of your life together.
Yeah.
Like you're just living it. You're enjoying each other. You're not, you know, spending time putting pictures up on everything that you do together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, completely. And, you know, I think I always thought, you know, I want that boyfriend where we can just put pictures up all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm like, I
I
don't
don't
need
have
to
time for
do,
that shit.
yeah, I don't need to do that. I don't need
Right.
someone else to give me validation that my relationship's awesome.
Because you know it is.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. What do you think were the greatest gifts from what you have gone through?
So my level of compassion and empathy, and I think even though I wasn't able to always talk about it, I've always been a good listener because I've always wanted to help people.
Yeah.
Whereas now I know I can help people, but explain or help them understand why I can help them. Yeah, so I think just the listening and the compassion and empathy I have for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, not everyone, but most people.
Yeah. The ones who, I don't like to say the ones who deserve it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
right?
my people.
Yeah, your people. What was the transition from what you did before and to what you do now? How did it happen? And can you share a bit, like work-wise, I mean?
Yeah. So when I was leaving the police force, so when I was working with the psych, it was, as I said.
When did you leave again? Remind me.
So I officially resigned at the start of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite recent.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'd sort of had some time off before then. So when I was working with the psych, she's like, you know, we're going to work through the past, what's happening now in the future.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that and I looked at psychology. But the idea of going back to uni for 6 years terrifies me because I need money. But also I realised that I want to help people live the life that they want. You know, I want to bridge that gap between where they are now and where they want to go as opposed to dealing with the trauma all the time.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to coaching. And then with my other job,
What is your other job exactly?
So I work at a university we do investigation and risk assessment for problem and threatening behaviours.
Yeah.
So sex assault, family violence, bullying, harassment, discrimination, and mental health.
It's like a description of your entire life.
I know, isn't it? So obviously the skills from the police force.
Yeah.
I've got those skills from the police force
And your life.
and my life. But it's a much more victim-centric approach. So we're actually helping victims, whereas in the police force, I just feel like you're ruining lives constantly.
Yeah.
I feel like the victims like the genuine victims are a second thought in the police force. They sort of deal with you when things happen. And if they take you seriously, like they'll do the investigation, the arrest and everything, but the victims don't know what's going on. Like they never get followed up. They don't get the support that they need.
And they are the ones who actually deserve it.
And they're the ones that need it. No, they are.
No.
They are. And so often they get fobbed off. And I knew it happened sometimes, but now that I'm out, I see it so much more.
It's like splashed into your face.
Yeah, like we get, you know, I'll talk to people and they're like, oh, I went to the police and they told me just to do this. I'm like, no, that's not true. Or someone will be getting stalked. And stalking is so undereducated and such a serious thing that people don't understand the emotional effect that stalking has. And they're like, oh, I went to the police and they just told me to block his number. I'm like, no, this is bullshit. I'm like, get in the car with me and I'm taking you down there because they need to do something about this.
Yeah.
So, so my job now, I get to support them doing that. Like I can give them their options and I can empower them to make the right decision for them as opposed to just focusing on the bad guys.
Yeah. If you could sit next to the little you, what would you tell her with what you know now? This is my favorite question.
Yeah. This question had me in tears a few years ago.
I still cry when I
Yeah. I would tell little me
Yeah.
that it's okay,
Yeah.
that it's not my fault and I'm going to be okay. That I didn't deserve it, but I'm strong enough to get through it.
Yeah.
think it's just, the main one is that it's okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. I'm here. I've got you. Yeah.
One question I forgot to ask before, do you feel like when we're talking about body image, do you feel like that what happened to you when you were 15, did that change your view of your body? Because it's such a like a horrendous thing to go through, and then your body's kind of linked to that, right?
Yeah. Not really. I don't think so. Like I've never really hated my body. But I've never loved until until now, I've never loved myself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like there was no outstanding
Just
issue.
because of that.
Yeah, it was just I just never loved myself
Mm.
as a whole.
Yeah. What is your mission with your work? And if you think of, like, do you want to be a mum?
We've had this. I do want to be a mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to be a mum.
So, what would you want the impact of your work and who you are as a person? What would you want the impact to be to the world that your child potentially is growing up to? You know, like they're going to be growing up in.
Yeah.
And what would you want that world to look like?
Again, as cliche as it sounds, like I want to have...
Cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah. Like I want to make the world a better place. I want people to fall in love with themselves and with the life that they're living. I want people to, I guess, just embrace the now, and be kind.
Yeah.
Like be kind to each other and be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
But it's really just, helping people love themselves, helping people realize that there is no reason that they can't have their dream life. Like we've all got limiting beliefs and we've all got things that the little inner demon that tells us that we're not good enough or whatever. But really, like everyone deserves to live their dream life.
Yeah.
And everyone's dream life is different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What would be the ways for you as a mum? Let's say that you would have a child who is a girl, and why not a boy, but let's talk about a girl. In the world that we live in, how would you make her a strong person with, like, not having these issues with, how they look or their worth, or what would be your advice, or what would you do as a mum?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to say without being one, but I'd like to think that I always kept the communication open, like that they knew that they can talk to me about anything.
Yeah.
But I also am a big believer in that, and I'm sure you've done it, I've done it, like we can all, like we've all heard, when I was your age, or don't do it this way. Like I truly believe that everyone has to do things their own way. So support her in that, but just make sure that she knows that she's supported and loved and that she can talk about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then also just not opposed to a little bit of tough love when required. Like, I would never give my child everything. I wouldn't just... Pardon?
Love and boundaries.
Yeah. Like, I'd give her all my love, but, I'm not just going to give them everything they want. Like, some things, sometimes lessons need to be learnt and some things need to be gained the hard way. And that sounds awful. I mean it in a...
No, it doesn't sound awful.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, and the thing, like we talked before, we don't learn anything unless shit happens.
Yeah.
So you need to let your children have shit happen.
Yeah.
Just create a safe space, like you said. That when the shit happens, they have a safe place to come.
Yeah.
And tell that mom this happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, perfect.
So they don't feel alone.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who are your greatest role models in life?
Who are my greatest
and
role
why?
models? Oh, shit. So I love Mel Robbins because she's just who she is. Like she's hit rock bottom. She had nothing and she's built an amazing life for herself and she's doing wonderful work. Like she's really, really helping so many people. So she's absolutely a role model. I've never even thought about this question. I actually love the work that Leonardo DiCaprio is doing with the environment. I think he's powerful.
Yeah. Who would have known when he was in Titanic that this is what he's today,
I know.
right?
I know.
Sidetracked.
Yeah, and I think anyone. I've got a girlfriend who and it makes me so sad every time I see it. She posts all the time. So do you know what happens in Taiji in Japan? So they like every year, a certain time of year, they hoard dolphins and whales and stuff
Oh yeah,
into
yeah,
the
I've seen it.
cove.
I watched it and it was the
Yeah, so she's a big advocate for that, and she puts posts up all the time, and it kills me to watch. But I love the fact that she's doing that work, so people know what's happening in the
because I
world.
think even if you can't change something, I think we owe it to whether it's people or whether it's animals or whether it's whatever to open our eyes and see it.
Yeah,
Because I think we are being really disrespectful for their suffering
yeah,
if we don't watch it because it's hard for us.
yeah. Well, and I just like I love animals, and I just think look at how many species are now extinct because of humans.
Because we're being stupid,
Yeah,
selfish.
yeah. People are the most destructive weapon
Yeah,
on earth.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Um, what is your message to women who are going through experiences that you did, whichever, because you had a lot of not
Yeah.
happy things happen?
Yeah. I think my message is, and this is something that it took me a long time to realize, is that you're not alone. Like I thought for so long that I was the only person to experience this, and unfortunately, I'm not. So I guess my biggest message is to know that you're not alone, and there is someone or there are people that can help you, but you're strong enough to get through it. You just got to find your way and allow yourself the time to do so.
Yeah. When you were going through, what happened when you were young, even though we want the help, but if somebody would have offered it to you, would you have accepted it?
Yeah, I think I would have.
Yeah.
It would have had to have been the right person though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like we
Yeah.
want it, but then if somebody would offer it, would we?
Yeah. Yeah. I would have if they were the right person and if I knew their intentions were genuine.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of like the psych, you go to so many and they don't work for you or they're not your people, and then you find someone you're like, okay, I trust you enough to tell you. So I think it's, if I found the right person, I would have.
Yeah. And that's the thing, even if you go to different people, but it also has to be the right moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if the person is the right person, but if you're not ready to deal with
Yeah.
your shit, nothing's going to happen.
No,
Right?
exactly.
What would be one or two things that you would want people to take out of our chat today?
Yeah.
Like to keep in their heart and
Yeah.
go about their day.
That I think that there are lessons to be learned in the hard times if you choose to look at it from that perspective. Warranted, like when you're in the middle of things, you just need to get through it. But when you get out the other side, there are lessons to learn and to help you build a better life.
Don't be afraid to look at them.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. And that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that you can have the life that you've always dreamt of. Like your past doesn't define you.
Yeah. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to say?
No, I think we've covered so much,
You
more than I was expecting. I was like, I wasn't ready for this one.
How do you feel now? Sharing?
Yeah, I feel really good. I
Yeah.
think, like the few times when I got emotional, it's like because those parts are still raw. They're not something that I had spoken about other than at the time.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably a lesson for me. Like, I'm constantly growing and I'm constantly learning. And as we just said, what you accept can change, but what you resist always stays there. So it's just open conversations.
Yeah.
Like I want people to open conversations. And I think maybe that's one thing I'll just quickly touch on is that for so long, when I was this happy extrovert with no problems to the world, God, I never had deep conversations. Like I never allowed myself to have really deep conversations. It was all surface level type stuff. Whereas now I find the people that I meet, like you, it's like you can have a conversation and it's not like you can have a deep conversation and it's more meaningful. So that's probably a lesson that I've learnt in that, you know, now that I love who I am and I love my life, I can have those conversations because I'm not scared of it. So I think, you know, we need to make more of those. You know, go away for weekends with girlfriends and have deep conversations where, you know, you can drink wine, you can eat junk food and you can just talk. Because I think, that's the biggest thing for me, like lately, is that my connections and my friends, my friendships are much stronger because we all allow ourselves to be vulnerable.
And have the right friends around you who are not there to judge you, but to have compassion and allow you to be you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And that, like, friendships and relationships is a massive area that I work in. And I think because of that, you know, you actually don't have to be friends with someone that makes you feel like shit.
No. I had 2 years ago, I did a massive, people do detox in their food and in their house and and I did a people detox, you know, like these people who drain you. And I'm like, why the hell do I have these people in my life? It doesn't mean that they did anything wrong or anybody did anything wrong, but it's just like they're not adding anything to my life. They're just draining it. So it's time to like let them go with love. And focus on the people who actually matter and those things change. You know, when we evolve, certain people just don't match with our energy and don't align with us anymore. And it's okay to let them go.
And I love that. And I think that's something that, you know, like when I finished high school, there was a couple of people that I was, one in particular, but a couple of people that I was friends with who I knew I should not be spending any time with because she wasn't a good person. But I chose to because I think that's where that, you know, that's where that drama comes in. If there's drama, then I feel more comfortable. Whereas now, like, there's no way I would allow anyone, you know, anyone that sort of abuses your trust or abuses your love or isn't there for the right reasons. They don't deserve you. Like, and as you said, like, they're draining. Life shouldn't have to be. You know,
relationships or
and
work.
And that comes with time, you know, and age, experience. You sort of you really appreciate the good things and the good people.
But also you need to do the work.
Yeah, you do need to do the work.
Because if you don't do the work, you're going to be, you know, 80 and you still are letting people drain you and do all these things because you don't value yourself. You haven't done the work. Things change when you do the work. And people like you help. You know, others do the work.
And you.
But
and you. But I think that's why we do it. And it's, you know, it's not like I'm fixed. It's not like I can just stop doing work on me and I'll always be good.
Like you're going to be an ignorant ass if you do that. If you think that now I'm the king of all and now I'm going to give you advice on how to be, you know.
You're always learning things, and I think and I probably pick this up in the police force more so, but you hear things and you learn things from different people that really resonate with you, and it's okay to pick and choose different pieces from different people and not agree with, you know, one way or one thing that someone else says. But I think that's, you know, it's about being open and sort of listening to that, because we like, you know, the day that we have nothing new to learn
might as well be dead.
Like it's never going to happen.
And like you were talking about healing before, like I did the post, I don't know, you may have seen it in the morning, about, you know, like you feel like you've healed and then something triggers it. So healing is not a straight line that you get from hurt to healed. Like it comes and goes, and some cuts are deeper and it takes more times to come back to it until you feel like, okay. This is just like it's a bit of a scar there. It's still there, but it's now I'm okay, and now we move to the other bits.
And life's not a straight line.
No.
You know, like
Just be patient and gentle
yeah.
with yourself.
Yeah, like I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah,
Like
that's the magic of life.
Yeah, like but
I mean, you know, you're going to see Tony Robbins.
yeah, I'm going to see Tony Robbins, which is going to be amazing. But you know, like that was it. Like I always lived either in the past or the future, but I never wanted to live in today. Whereas now it's like I don't know what's going to what's going to happen, and I can guarantee you that I'm going to go through some more tough times.
Hopefully.
You know, for something.
Hope you will.
Yeah.
I hope you will, because then you will have more to offer to your clients as well.
Yeah, but it's about embracing that. It's like, okay, so this is happening.
Yeah. Why is this happening? Why did I call this into my life?
Yeah. And I think I now, and you know, maybe that's where the skills come in that you were talking about before. Like now I can, when something is happening, I can step back and go, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, why is this
And
happening?
not react to it and like, oh my God.
Yeah. My life's so shit. Why does everything happen to me? Yeah. It's like, okay, so this is happening for a reason.
Yeah.
What do I need to figure out?
Yeah.
Like, you know, is it something like, am I up leveling and this is, you know, my body trying to keep me at this lull that I'm at?
Yeah.
Or is there something that I haven't experienced?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if people want to be empowered by you
Yes.
from one stage in their life to the more empowered one, where can people find you and what are your ideal clients?
Yep.
Okay, that's a bit... I don't
No,
mean,
no,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what
I
is
do.
your focus?
Yeah. So, so I work with, as I said, so teen females just around body confidence and self-love. But my ideal clients are, so women who have experienced traumatic events in their life. They've worked through that, but they now want to take the step into loving themselves, loving the life and like chasing their dreams, building building good relationships and bridging the gap, as I said before. So bridging the gap between where they are now and where they want to be, but they just don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my ideal clients. But I am on Instagram, which is just at Jackie, which is JACI .rogash. And
In my head, I heard it totally different, so I'm glad that we cleared that up.
Everyone does. I am on Facebook as well, but I'm about to open a new Facebook group, which will go on my Instagram page once I've opened it.
So we'll put all the details at the end.
Yeah.
So people can find you.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from Tony Robbins? We did it 2 years ago, and it's...
Yeah.
I don't like expectations, but you know, it's nice to have an idea of why am I doing
I
this?
actually don't have any expectations. So I've heard a couple of different people who've been to him. I've heard and different courses that he does. I'm expecting the things that I'm expecting is high vibes, and to walk away just on a completely different energy level. In terms of the content, I don't have any expectations. So I'm just sort of going in there with a really open mind. And I'm sure, I know they're huge days. Like huge days. And I'm like an 8-hour sleep person, so I don't know how I'm going to go, but I think the energy in the room will just be amazing.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Do you have to go to work straight after?
No, so I've got Monday off. I'll fly home on Monday.
You want to kind of let it all marinate.
Yeah.
Before you like step into...
Yeah. Well, when I was looking at flights back to Melbourne, I was like, oh, do I go back Sunday night? I'm like, oh, God knows. So yeah, I'll stay in Sydney Sunday night and go back Monday. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Aww. I've loved it. Yeah. I have.
We're going to have another chat, but outside of this.
Yes, we are.
Have a lovely day, everyone. Whether it's raining or shining, wherever you are here, it's raining. Hopefully it will be nicer before you go.
Hopefully.
Thank you, everyone. And I'll be chatting with... I don't know who is going to be here next, but I'll be chatting with someone, I'm sure. Thank you, Jax.
You're welcome.
And bye, everyone.